What's up, people? It's Emily, and I'm here with 3 tips to help you grow some awesome lettuce. So the first thing that's important when it comes to growing lettuce, and by the way, some of these tips, well, some of the best tips are at the end in regards to seed saving, so make sure you stay tuned till the end. But the first thing I want to mention about lettuce seeds, these are going to be 3 tips on how to grow some decent lettuce. First thing that's most important, in my opinion, is the depth. You do not want to plant these at the wrong time either, but number 1 is depth. Now, most packages for lettuce seeds suggest 1/4 of an inch. I've seen on some, but more commonly it's about 1/8 of an inch. Now, if you're like me and you're maybe not so fantastic with numbers, you're like, I don't really want to get out my ruler to plant this seed. That's okay. What I usually do is use the tip of my finger. Now, for me, it's kind of about, you really don't need much, but your fingernail is like the maximum depth that you would want. And so dig a little crater for yourself, plop your seed in there, and loosely cover that over with soil, and then gently, I mean really, you don't want to pack this down by any means, but gently pat down the soil. So that's tip number 1. Be careful with your depth. Make sure you don't plant it too deep, because if you don't plant it too deep, or rather if you do plant it too deep, you're going to find that it just doesn't have, whether it's light or whether it's moisture or whatever, that your seed's not going to get exactly what it needs. So the best thing you can do is just dig a little crater with the tippity tip of your finger, drop it in there, loosely cover with soil, and just very loosely pat. And then if you're like me, something that I personally like to do before I actually water my seedlings sometimes is that I take a spray bottle, a little mister, and I'll mist it in and then give a gentle water. You want to make sure you don't, when you water that, you don't flood it out. So the second tip, which kind of goes in tandem and kind of is already mentioned with those 2, but is the light and water. Again, kind of factored into depth. You need to make sure that your seed, again, is not too deep, but also that it's not too shallow. And you'll find that happy medium, because if you plant it too shallowly and too close to rain, you'll find that your seed just gets washed away. And to be honest, actually, this year was the first year where I actually had an issue of birds coming to eat my lettuce seeds, which are out on the sea. You can kind of see it. Nothing there is actually growing anything right now because it's too cold out here now. But before, I had some lettuces on the balcony there, and I actually have some that are coming up right now. They're about yay big, knee high to a grasshopper. I'm not sure if they're going to make it because the seasons here in Vermont seem to have rapidly changed, and pretty much overnight they're going erratic between like warm and freezing, and most of my plants were not happy with that erratic transition. And so a lot of my tomatoes, my eggplants, my strawberries are really struggling. My beans kind of died off. A lot of them actually got hit hard, which is funny because beans and things like that are usually pretty hardy when it's still pretty cold. But at any rate, so you want to make sure you plant those at the right depth. You want to make sure you don't overwater. So I guess step number 2, or tip number 2, is don't overwater them. I mean, you absolutely do want to water it in. When you first plant a seed, one of the most important factors is that you water it, because without water, frankly, everything is dead. Nothing will grow without water. But there is a dance and a balance that you learn with gardening. And lettuce is one of those slightly more sensitive things, although it is also one of the easiest to grow, which is why it's one of my first videos, because lettuce, in my opinion, lettuce, beans, and peas are 3 of the easiest crops you can grow if you're a brand new gardener. So they're fantastic. Not sure what kind of wildlife is going on over there. But they are fantastic for just getting started, and they grow into pretty cold temperatures. So for me, I'm in Vermont. Our growing season, I don't know how long it is, but it's one of the shortest because we obviously don't have summer all season long. So that's something to be considerate of also. But the reason that lettuce is so great is because it does last. Like, I had lettuce last year that actually almost lasted into a literal frost. I mean, into a deep freeze. Like, I have pictures of my peas where there's literally frost laced across the peas. It looked really cool. But so they're very hardy most of the time. You know, lettuce is really good. And if you start your lettuce at the right time, and you'll adjust to how long this takes, but if you start your lettuce at the right time, you can get basically 2 crops even here in Vermont. Like, I had a crop of lettuce and now I have a second crop, which if under more normal circumstances would probably be growing well, but because we've had crazy weather, it's not. And then let's see. Tip number 3 is regards to seed saving. So what happens, what I would highly, and again, This is the most important tip, to be honest with you. And especially given the fact that the times are changing so much and everything is so chaotic and crazy out in the world right now. One thing that I assure you that you want, and you don't have to take it from me, you'll see this happen, but there are going to be food shortages. And one of the best things you can do for yourself is to grow your own food. One, of course, because it's way more healthier and you can way more healthy. That sounded terrible. Way more healthy. And you grew it yourself. Oh, and the seed saving, that's the third tip, is you can save your own seeds. Now, you might be thinking, well, gosh, I like plants. The idea of growing seems cool, but I don't know if I really want to save seeds. Well, let me give you some inspiration and encouragement as to why you might want to do that. The two main reasons you're going to want to save your seeds from your plants. Number one, let me point out one important thing. When you go to pick a plant to save seeds from, you don't just want to save all of your plants. That would be kind of pointless and honestly probably pretty time consuming, because certain plants, dealing with the seeds can be a little more time consuming, which again, I don't mind, but some people might not have the patience to sit around and sift through them. So the bonus is that when you pick a plant, you want to pick the strongest, healthiest plant in your selection, basically, that you've grown. Reason being, what happens is if you save the seeds from that strong, healthy plant that you grew in your climate, and then you take those seeds from that plant and you grow them the next year, you get a stronger, healthier version, which, believe it or not, it sounds science fiction almost, but it adapts to be able to grow stronger the next season in your soil, in your climate. So it makes your plant stronger growing for where you are, if that makes sense. I hope it does. And so basically you're increasing the quality. So year by year, you can get better and better plants. They become more pest resistant. They can be planted in the native soil and you don't necessarily need to fertilize much, or you can just chop and drop local stuff on top of it. There are just really simple ways to give yourself some food security. So the first reason you should save the seeds is just pure volume, to be honest. I saved one plant. Well, actually, yeah. Well, no, sorry. This year I took seeds from 2 plants, but because they actually both did well. But basically what you want to do is at the end of the season, what you'll notice is that your lettuces start to shoot up. They go quite a bit more vertical. You'll notice that instead of, having leaves as normal per lettuce, that you'll see they start to grow up taller and there's more space between the leaves. And then eventually they come up into, I don't know how well you can see these, but eventually they'll grow, it doesn't seem like it's helping. But anyway, they'll grow up into these little dry pods. They'll look at first, maybe I'll put, if you check my Instagram, actually, I have photos of what this looks like when it was hanging up to dry. So what you'll do is you'll take, these stalks will grow up straight from the center. There will be one main stalk, or tap, I guess you could say, but one main stalk, and they'll shoot up and branch off into a bunch of little pods. And what'll happen is these pods will open up and look rather like a dandelion. If you've ever seen the dry version of a dandelion, they look like cotton balls or little puff balls on the end of the thing. So the ends of these little tips will have a bunch of puff balls, and you want to wait until they get those puff balls become white and fluffy and fuzzy. When they get that way, I waited a little while. I don't know, it can kind of vary depending on where you are and what your conditions are outside, but you want to wait a little bit. Let the puff balls, I don't know what they're actually called, I'm sure they have some kind of a technical name, but let these little fuzzy bits appear. And then what you want to do is chop the plant. Well, you can chop it wherever, but the most important part is that you collect all these little nodules with the pods, because that's what actually has your seeds in it. And so what you do is hang them upside down. Again, the time may vary for you. For me, it was maybe 2 weeks or a month. I probably could have, I've been so busy that I haven't had time to actually take these seeds out and sift them and then put them away for storage for next year yet. But I could have taken care of these about 2 weeks ago. So really, again, the time may vary, but it could be 2 to 4 weeks. You leave these hanging upside down. All you have to really do is just tie a string to the bottoms of the stalk and then just hang it somewhere, either indoors or outdoors. I don't even think it honestly matters. I had mine outside and they dried just fine. And then when they dry out to look basically like this, pretty crappy and twiggy, you don't necessarily, again, I waited a little too long. for these, but you don't have to wait that long. But the main point though is that you primarily want them to be dry, because the other thing that will mess up your seeds when you save seeds is moisture content. The thing that you do not want is moisture. See, here's the whole thing. Life, literally, like water brings life. And so essentially what happens is when our plants dry out, that's when we're able to save the seeds. It's almost like they go dormant without the water. That's how this works. And so you wait for them to dry out. They've hung out upside down, let's say 2 to 4 weeks. You take them off, they're dry and crispy. And what you'll do is I can't really show you because I should have thought of this, hindsight, oh well. But you want to take the little pods out. Again, it'll look like a little open dandelion. Like before the dandelions open up and look like a full-on globe, they look sort of like a little cone. You know, I'm sure you all know, you've all seen dandelions. And that's when, so then you want to pull them sort of by the little fuzz, or if you're, to be honest, even if you're like wanting to do it the slightly lazier way, you can just sort of take all of this and put it in a bowl like I have here. And that's what I did earlier. I know you can't really see, but there are a bunch of seeds in there. Woo! As I dump a bunch of them. Well, that's okay, because you know what? One of the points I was going to make is actually the reason for seed saving, that was part of the third tip, which is that the reason you want to save your seeds. Okay, so this is, as I was saying and showing you before, this is only 2 plants. You know, I don't know how much, whether that looks like a lot to you or a little. To me, it looks like a wealth of seeds. And so from just that, you know, I'm a little upset that I lost those, to be honest with you. But what you basically do after that, so you take your dried up stuff, and again, you can take that in that whole thing and you can kind of just crumble the pods between your fingers and do it, or you can do it the more careful way, which is how I did it, which is where you take your fingers. If you're, again, you have to be kind of careful because you probably can wreck and rip the seeds, but I grab them between my thumb and forefinger and I pull the little soft part out, and it pulls most of the seeds out, and then you can dump them into the bowl. See if I can really show this. Not really, but they're all sort of falling. But then you basically, you toss them. I guess I really can't show this. But you toss them in the air. I'll just show you from a distance. You take the bowl and you do this with it. And basically, well, you can kind of see. Basically what happens, can you still see this? What happens is the light parts of it, the fuzz bits, if you will, I don't know what it's called, but the light and fluffy bits the purpose of this is to separate it. You separate the seeds from that. And so they'll float off into the air, and it's really beautiful and easy. And from that, like, again, you can look on my Instagram. I have a post up today where I'll put up some or maybe I'll put it up tomorrow, but I have pictures of the seeds and you'll see. So the third reason being, not only do you get better, hardier seeds for the next year that you can save, you'll get, and I'm not kidding, you'll get thousands of seeds. I grew some dill for my parents this year, and from one dill plant, I am not kidding you people, we had thousands of seeds. I mean, we filled a jar, I want to say it was like a baby food jar. We filled up an entire baby food jar of dill seeds from one plant. I mean, it was insane. I can't overstate this enough, my friends. Seriously. It doesn't take much. And you might be asking yourself, well, why do I want to bother? But let me refer back to you to a really important point. Number one, these beautiful things, these seeds of packet seeds, am I okay? Packets of seeds. I'm not editing this much, so I just, the fumbles are real, guys. These things, these can run anywhere from, well, let's see, does it have the price on this one? Actually, it doesn't. But normally, packets of seeds are anywhere from like $1.20 or something-ish like that, to some of the more expensive packets can be $3 to $5 for, like, I don't know, sunflower seeds, or maybe like something more exotic for here, like okra. So the other benefit to you is that not only are you getting hardier, better quality plants, and I'm not just saying that, try it for yourself, you'll see. They taste better, they'll adapt better to the ground, they'll have less issues with pests because you're increasing, it's like evolution on a plant scale. Rather than applying this to animals, we're applying this to plants, and we're increasing like the genetic inheritance of good qualities of our plants. And who doesn't want that? So you get better seeds and you get more seeds than you would ever. One of these packets, I can't really, oh, well, actually, yeah. So there's an example. This packet of lettuce seeds, this would probably cost me $1.50, has 500 seeds in it. Whereas I just took my 2 plants and I probably got 2,000 seeds, no joke. I don't know if you can see how exponentially much better that is, but I encourage you, permaculture is the way of the future. What I was mentioning is these bad boys may not be in the stores for much longer. You know, if some of you may have noticed that this year in places like Wally World, if you're familiar in America, if we're talking about Walmart, these or other places too actually was considered to be non-essential. Now I don't know about you, but food seems pretty essential to me. So let me encourage you to take the control of your food and your food freedom into your own hands for the sake of you and your family, because nobody wants to worry about food and shelter at the end of the day. And I can't help you necessarily with the shelter part yet, but I can sure as heck teach you how to grow some things and how to save seeds so that you don't have to even go buy any. So you can save yourself the $1.50. And to some people, maybe that doesn't matter. But I know to a lot of us in a recession, this is probably a good thing. You're looking to save $1 here and there. But again, even more important than saving the money, and really truly, because again, you're not saving that much. What you are getting though is you're securing your food security. You know that you can grow, you know, even if the supermarket, the thing that's going to happen, you're going to find there's going to be food shortages coming up in the next, could be 6 to 18 months. You're going to see food shortages. And what I recommend strongly, personally, seriously, for the sake of you and your family's wellness, health, well-being, and sanity, is to really, really encourage you to grow your own food. Whether you do that in containers in your driveway, whether you do that in your house with a grow light, whether you are lucky enough to have a greenhouse, it doesn't matter. I so encourage you to please grow your own food. Seriously, for your sake. It's not for me. I have the ability. You all can see, well, not so much well right now, but out there's plenty of room for me to grow food. And actually, I'm planning to move and grow a whole permaculture food forest, for which I'm going to be taking you guys along, by the way, and I am beyond excited. So I think those are my 3 tips. So again, just to recap what we learned here today, 3 reasons you might as well grow lettuce and that you might as well save your seeds. Number 1, don't forget, plant your lettuce seeds just a little bit under the surface, loosely pat them in, and gently water at first. Make sure that is super important. Make sure they have access to enough light, and make sure you save your seeds, because you don't have to, but you're only really doing yourself a disservice by not saving them, because by saving your seeds, you will encourage amazing, tasty food. And you'll see, once you have one herb or vegetable, you'll be like, wow, that's really tasty. I just encourage you, homegrown food, there's nothing better. If you've ever had a cucumber or a snap pea from a store versus out of someone's garden, you know I'm not lying, or cherry tomatoes, there's just nothing better in the world that tastes any better than your own food. So with that, guys, really, if this video helped you out in any way, if you appreciated the tips, if you needed to know any of this, if you know someone who needs to hear this, who is trying to grow lettuce, who wants to become a gardener, who is interested in permaculture or seed saving, I do humbly encourage you and ask you to please subscribe, like, comment, but again, and share the video if it's at all helpful to you. That really helps me out. But again, subscribing really helps, and commenting really helps me get to know you guys, which is what I want. I'm looking to build a tribe of people who are concerned about permaculture, who want to spread knowledge about gardening, because my dream is to help you all achieve your own food sustainability and complete food freedom, independent of grocery stores. And I want to help you feel and look your best. All of those things are in my goals for you. So with that, have a fantastic and beautiful, blessed day. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.